Dear colleagues, I stand before you as lives continue falling apart in the Gaza Strip, torn apart in the most brutal and devastating ways. I stand before you as more than 35,000 Palestinians have been killed, 80,000 have been maimed, 2 million have been displaced, and everything has been destroyed. No words can capture what such loss and trauma signifies for Palestinians, their families, communities, and for our nation as a whole. As Palestinians in Gaza have been pushed to the very edge of the Strip, to the very brink of life, and in the ever-narrowing space they are besieged in, bombs and bullets continue hunting them down. I stand before you as famine is settling in, by design and by the decision of the Israeli government, killing the most vulnerable among our people, children and women. Israel closed the crossings instead of opening them, including the Rafah crossing, seizing by force the Palestinian crossings point of Rafah. Humanitarian convoys were attacked with its blessing, and the UNRWA headquarters was assaulted with its complicity. At the time where the world was calling to flood Gaza with humanitarian aid and calling for a ceasefire, Israel imposed a drought. Its plan has not changed: destroy and displace. I stand before you as every inch of Gaza has witnessed massacres, as mass graves continue to be uncovered where hospitals used to stand, as the world is barely starting to grasp the cruel and extensive nature of the actions committed against the Palestinian people. I stand before you as the Israeli Prime Minister is ready to kill thousands more to ensure his political survival, as he openly declares the Palestinian state is an existential threat, and together with his co-conspirators continues, 76 years after the Nakba, to try and finish the job. Israel's war is against the Palestinian people as a whole. Its occupation forces and settlers kill daily in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Its bulldozers displace Palestinian communities and demolish Palestinian homes everywhere. I have heard many praise the resilience of the Palestinian people, and we are resilient. But no nation, no family, no person should have to endure such suffering for so long. Such injustice, from birth to premature death, one generation after the other. No parents should know such fear, such powerlessness. No children should have to suffer in their flesh what Palestinian children are experiencing. As we speak, 1.4 million Palestinians in Rafah wonder if they will survive today and wonder where to go next. There is nowhere left to go. Mr. President, I have stood hundreds of times before at this podium, often in tragic circumstances, but none comparable to the ones my people endure today. I have stood hundreds of times before at this podium, but never for a more significant vote than the one about to take place, a historic one. We faced and continue to face attempts to push us out of geography and out of history, but by forcible displacement, subjugation, or death, or to say it in even clearer terms, by ethnic cleansing, apartheid, or genocide. Against all odds, we survived. Our flag flies high and proud in Palestine and across the globe and on the campus of Columbia University. It has become a symbol raised by all those who believe in freedom and is just rule, by all those who can no longer stand idly by in the face of such utter injustice. It is true that we will not disappear, but the lives lost cannot be restored. The marks, visible and invisible, left by this horrific assault that has yet to end on bodies and souls, on families and communities, on each single Palestinian in the Gaza Strip, can never be truly conveyed. We did not write the UN Charter. We did not enact international law. We just demanded to see them applied to us, and have been until now denied their protection. As the campaign to displace and destroy the Palestinian people reaches its ultimate levels, you can decide to stand by the right of a nation to live in freedom and dignity on its ancestral land, to stand with peace, which requires the recognition of our rights, not their continued denial. Or you can stand on the sidelines of history, or worst, obstruct its natural path forward. Mr. President, I have sat in these halls next to liberation movements who, one by one, finally took their rightful place in this august chamber, and again, without a doubt, the day will come where Palestine will take its rightful place among the community of free nations. Occupation and colonialism and death and destructions are not our fate. They are imposed on us, but freedom is our sole destiny. We share with many nations represented in this hall the suffering they endured, the struggles they led, the dreams they had. You have been witnesses to the story of Palestine, and you can only look at it from the prism of your own people's journeys towards liberation. Liberation so life can prevail. Liberation so peace can prevail. We want peace. We want freedom. There is no word harder to pronounce when tens of thousands of your people have been killed. We do not use it lightly. We want peace. Our freedom is not an obstacle to peace. It is the only path leading to it. If you do not support our freedom, you do not support peace. Our right to self-determination, to independent statehood, to membership of these United Nations cannot be subject to an Israeli veto. They are not up for negotiations. They are our inherent rights as Palestinians. Israel is clear that it wants to destroy Palestinian statehood. What does it mean to be for the two-state solution if you allow for the destruction of the Palestinian state? Mr. President, dear colleagues, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, Palestine has been for generations of your compatriots the ultimate test for humanity's ability to live up to its promises. And it is once again, for this generation, the ultimate measure of the quest for justice. Its name was embraced by your founding fathers and your greatest leaders and by our peoples. It is an integral part of the legacy of your ancestors and of the engagement of your younger generations. People from all creeds and faiths and race and age, in the biggest cities and in the most remote villages, are mobilizing for Palestine, mobilizing for a ceasefire, for an end of the occupation, for freedom and justice, and for peace. Mr. President, the UN Charter was often invoked during our negotiations, and we will always abide by the Charter, including when the processes it forces and limitations it imposes are to our detriment, and including after having been confined in an observer status for 50 years now. We wish from all those who invoked the Charter to abide by the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination guaranteed by the Charter, to confront the acquisition of Palestinian territory by force, denounced by the Charter, to preserve future Palestinian generations from the scourge of occupation and war as foreseen by the Charter. A yes vote is a vote for Palestinian existence. It is not against any state, but it is against the attempts to deprive us of our state. That is why the Israeli government is so opposed to it, because they oppose our independence and the two-state solution altogether. It is an investment in peace and thus empowers the forces of peace. How can anyone explain that Israel was admitted to the United Nations 75 years ago on the power of a resolution that foresaw two states, and without awaiting an end of the conflict, and while continuing to deny our rights and our existence, and that the state of Palestine, 75 years later, is still required to wait and remains met by a closed door, preventing it from being admitted to this organization. Your vote today, of course, says a lot about your solidarity with Palestine, but also about who you are and what you stand for. It matters, and I know an overwhelming majority of you will stand again with the Palestinian people in their hour of need, and you will stand for just and lasting peace for the benefit of all. In simple words, voting yes is the right thing to do. And I can assure you, you and your country for years to come will be proud to have stood for freedom, justice, and peace in this darkest hour. As everyone is saying, free Palestine, and peace for all. And I repeat, free Palestine and vote yes for the resolution, and I thank you so much.
Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Let's continue now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over 85 years ago, as World War II began, a force of sheer evil rose up with the goal of dominating the planet through genocide and destruction. After Hitler's rise to power, the Nazis sought to subjugate humanity under their iron fist while annihilating the Jewish people, but not only us, all those who they deemed subhuman. But in the face of this genocidal plot, the forces of good came together in order to end this horror, to return freedom and peace to the world. And following the Allies' victory, this institution here, the United Nations, was founded with the mission of ensuring such tyranny never raises its ugly head again, never. Today, you are about to do the exact opposite and advance the establishment of a Palestinian terror state, which will be led by the Hitler of our times. The Hitler of our times. In the 1940s, the world united to destroy a murderous regime. Yet today, with sick and twisted irony, the very body established to prevent evil is now welcoming a terror state into its ranks. What would Churchill say if he were alive today? What would Roosevelt think? They are turning in their graves, turning in their graves. This week, only this week, Israel commemorated Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it is during our sacred week that this shameless body has chosen to reward modern-day Nazis with rights and privileges. As Israelis mourn the Jewish babies burned in the crematoria, you here at the UN usher in the collaborators of the Israeli babies burned on October 7th. How can you be so blind? Is it your political interest? Are these your distorted values? Are you being threatened by diplomatic terror of the Palestinians and their collaborators? There are many here. Colleagues, today's destructive vote is not only opening the UN's doors to the terror-supporting Palestinian Authority. If it was, then it would be bad enough. But as you all know, the Palestinian Authority does not even have control of its own territory. Do you know who controls Gaza? You probably have forgotten, because in all of your resolutions here since October 7th, you have failed to even call them out by name. So I'll remind you, it's the terrorists of Hamas. But Hamas doesn't only control Gaza. Hamas has also taken over Palestinian neighborhoods, Palestinian villages in Judea and Samaria, what you call the West Bank. In every poll, Hamas today is predicted to win Palestinian elections, if they ever happen. So today, the General Assembly is not only about to grant the rights of a state to the Palestinian Terror Authority. Today you are also about to grant privileges and rights to the future terror state of Hamas. You have opened up the United Nations to modern-day Nazis, to genocidal jihadists committed to establishing an Islamic state across Israel and the region, murdering every Jewish man, woman, and child. It makes me sick. Sick. In the years to come, you will have to explain how, in opposition to all morality and the UN Charter, you did everything to give a state to a group of mass murderers, to the Hitlers of our times. So here it is. I present to you the future outcome of today's vote. This is the outcome of your vote. Soon to be President Yihya Sinwar, President Tyrant of the state of Hamas, sponsored by the UN, by the way. And he owes his deepest gratitude to you, the General Assembly. When Hamas rises to power, the Palestinian representative who just spoke here, you know what will happen to him. He will be recalled. And if he returns, he will likely be thrown off a rooftop by Hamas, just as the Palestinian Authority representative were when Hamas took over Gaza back in 2006-07. And in his place, this body will welcome a Hamas representative to its ranks, a terrorist diplomat whose stated goal is Jewish genocide, just like his Iranian counterpart here. With this new precedent, we may see here representatives of ISIS or Boko Haram that will sit among us. You know what? This will be fitting for the new moral standard being set here today, giving the rights of a state to an entity that is already partially controlled by terrorists and will be replaced by a force of child-murdering Hamas rapists. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. What you are carrying out today is reminiscent of how the powers of Europe capitulated to Hitler in the Munich Agreement. The UN is targeting the law-abiding democracy of Israel while appeasing the Nazi jihadist forces of Hamas and Iran. And Churchill's remarks then on the choice of cowardice and appeasement in the face of murderous dictators are relevant to your vote today. Because today you have a choice between weakness, shame, and conciliation, and fighting a war against terror. And sadly, you will choose weakness, but you will receive in return not only shame, but war in the future as well. Bravo. Colleagues, today another travesty is being committed here by the General Assembly, an unforgivable act, the destruction of the United Nations Charter. The UN Charter, the sacred document which serves as the foundation of everything we are supposed to do here, is being trampled upon. It is being thrown out the window. You are spitting on the very values that were formulated to bind this organization. With today's destructive resolution, you are circumventing the Security Council, ignoring its decision, and violating the norms this organization has abided by. The Charter was drafted for a reason, but most of you care nothing for the qualifications it outlines. So let me remind you what the Charter says about admitting new UN membership. Membership in the United Nations is open to all other peace-loving states which accept the obligations contained in the present Charter, peace-loving. Number two, the admission of any such state to membership in the United Nations will be affected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. With today's vote, you are not only bypassing the Security Council in violation of the Charter, but you are bastardizing the meaning of peace-loving. You know that the Palestinians are the exact opposite of peace-loving. You know this. Since they rejected the UN partition plan in 1947, they rejected it. They have only tried to destroy Israel time and again. They are terror-loving, not peace-loving. They are anything but peace-loving. The Palestinian Authority pays lifelong salaries to terrorists. It's in their budget. They teach martyrdom and jihad in their classrooms. They glorify death and murder. The Palestinians indoctrinate their children to murder Israelis and commit terror attacks. And then, when Israel defends herself, the Palestinian representative comes here, stands here, shedding his crocodile tears, as if he did not send all of them to commit suicide or terror attacks. Not a single Palestinian leader, not even one, has condemned the October 7th massacre. He calls the Hamas his brothers. And this is who you want to bestow the rights of a state upon? A terror entity? As long as so many of you are Jew-hating, you don't really care that the Palestinians are not peace-loving. Despite your obligation to the UN Charter, you are here today to expose what the Charter truly means to you. When it comes to the lives of Israelis and Jews, the UN Charter means nothing to you. Nada, kaput. By ignoring the Charter and granting the Palestinians the privileges of a member state, you are proving that morality is just a slogan for you, while politics and interest prevail. To you, the UN Charter is just a meaningless document, and the vote today will prove that. You know what you're doing today? Today you are gutting the Charter, and you are doing it in the wake of the most brutal massacre of my people since the Holocaust, on the ashes of the October 7th massacre. Why? This day will go down in infamy. The UN, an organization that was established in the aftermath of the systematic murder of 6 million Jews, pays no heed to its founding charter and is advancing another genocidal regime that threatens the existence of the Jewish people. And I want the entire world to remember this moment, to remember this immoral act. So today, I will hold up a mirror for you. A mirror. This is your mirror. So that you can see exactly what you are inflicting upon the UN Charter with this destructive vote. This is you are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands. Yes, yes, that's what you're doing, shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.